Alright, hello everybody, it is middle class review time. It is May 2019 and we've just had a federal government election in Australia, and I'm pretty excited about this because we still have the Liberal National Coalition in. Now a lot of people were saying, wow, what a shock result. I remember one of the big betting agencies had the odds of the current government retaining government at, they were paying $6.23 for the win. They were expecting the Labor Party to form government, and they were paying at the time about $1.18 for the win. So in other words, Labor was heavily expected to win. There were polls everywhere saying that Labor would win, they would sweep into power. Here's the problem now. Here's a great lesson for everyone. Doesn't matter what side of the political spectrum you're on. This is where polls are garbage. A lot of these polls they found were actually held by groups like Get Up, United Voice. So these are all pro-socialist Labor Party type movements. They get funding from the union movement, and also Get Up, they get funding from international donors. They're a progressive group, as they're called. I just call them outright socialists, let's be honest. People like George Soros gives money to Get Up. He's a billionaire. They call him a philanthropist. He actually made his first money dobbing in Jews to the Nazis in Hungary. He was raised a Jew himself, but he pretended to be a Christian, and as a teenager he'd take Nazis around and say, hey, look, these Jews live here, these Jews live there. And they went off to death camps, concentration camps, while he started making his first real money. Now he's a billionaire. Yeah. He actually says nowadays that he's not Jewish and doesn't believe in God. He is an atheist. For his sake, well, I'm sure he'll be hoping there is no such thing as a heaven and hell, I'm sure. Anyway, let's hope they serve beer in hell, Mr. Soros, because I heard it's pretty hot down there. Anyway, groups like this are funded by guys like that, and yeah, it's probably a good thing that Labor didn't get in. They were coming up with socialist ideas like higher taxes, paying workers a bit more, but then taking it all the way in tax, putting taxes on motor vehicles that they deemed as unenvironmentally sound. They wanted more electric cars, things like this. So they were basically going after the Green Left vote. What they didn't count on is that Australians reacted to this. You know, the funny thing is, it's against our human nature as Australians, especially middle-class Australians. We believe in the fair go. You know, having a crack at something, doing your best, and getting ahead, as we always call it. How the hell can you get ahead when someone is constantly taxing you? They're going to make the highest income tax rate 49%. And people get sick of this. Anytime somebody tries to get ahead and be a bit more ambitious or be a bit entrepreneurial, there's always someone in the government putting their hand out trying to take money off you. So that doesn't inspire people to be entrepreneurial, to get ahead and do more. So no wonder they didn't get into power. Also, another thing they haven't been mentioning is the campaign. I think people are turned off by the nasty name calling and things like that. My own local member, Peter Dutton, who's the Home Affairs Minister, he was the Immigration Minister in the current government, he was re-elected and even won a bigger margin. Now let's see why. Okay, let's just analyse it. For one, I think it was because people were turned off by the dirty tactics. We had Antifa members attack his office, smashing windows and things in the middle of the night. We had Get Up funding an aeroplane to fly over with a sign on election day saying, ditch Dutton. There were people with printing stickers saying, dump Dutton. Saying all these nasty things, saying he's basically evil and nasty. Let's look at his record, hey? As Immigration Minister and Home Affairs Minister, he is responsible for allowing 12,000 refugees into our country every year. That's the highest intake we've ever had. And they make out he's evil and wicked and nasty. Strange. How many refugees do New Zealand take in? You know, that Western country so close to us? Yeah, they take 200 to 300 a year. Now, the Labor Party were wanting to take in 30,000 a year refugees. Now, over 80% of these refugees that we do take in, after 5 years, they're still on welfare. They don't actually work. So I think a lot of taxpayers were saying, you know, it's all right to take in 12,000 a year, but if you bring in 30,000 a year, who the Labor Party obviously want to vote for them because they live on welfare, and let's face it, Labor are kind of like the Democrats in the United States, Liberal National more like the Republican Party in the US. So of course you're going to have a bit of a backlash to this. There's nothing wrong with humanitarian intake of refugees, of course. Take 12,000 a year, no problem. But I think people are getting fed up about it. They're thinking, well, you know, we're struggling now to get ahead with our families as it is. You know, why do we need more expenses? As I say, if you have a moderate intake of people, the country can absorb them, they can assimilate easier. Yeah, I think people are just over the nastiness. And there was massive signs outside the polling booths where I voted, and it said, you know, these were Labor signs, dissing the LNP basically, saying money for hospitals, not banks. Which is really strange to me. Do the government give handouts to banks? It was actually the Liberal National Party just only a year or two ago that put on a big new tax for the big four Australian banks, hitting them, you know, a couple of hundred, sorry, not a couple of hundred million, it's a couple of billion a year extra in tax on their profits. So it's not like they're giving more money to banks, they're actually taxing them more. So lies like that, and let's face it, hospitals are run by the state, and we have a state Labor Party here. And we had a bit of a crisis in the emergency departments. Too many people waiting there. So, yeah, crazy. But anyway, people are mixing up the issues. The federal government basically looks after federal police, the military, some main highways, and national issues. The states look after education, hospitals, things like that. But there's actually been more money given to the states from the federal government due to mining royalties going up. We're getting more money from mining now. And that's another thing that really hit home here in Queensland, my home state. We had a lot of green left policies by Labor, and of course there's the Greens and other groups who are against coal mining, things like that. Let me paint you a picture, okay? Australia is basically a three-trick pony when it comes down to it. We have iron ore, we have coal, and we have agriculture. These are our big export earners. People go, oh, what about tourism? Yeah, sure. We have people running hotels and things like that. We have restaurants and bars, whatever. However, the big export earners, the export dollars, come from mining. In my state of Queensland alone, 80% of all the export dollars we get are from regional country areas. They're not from the city where, you know, Brisbane is, the capital where I live. It's from the regions. Our biggest export earner is coal. The other big export earner is iron ore. And then we have agricultural. So live export of beef, lots of fruit and vegetables, things like that, even our seafood. So you've got to understand, people, these green, hard left green policies that many parties were pushing just aren't popular because these things sound nice in theory, but we still need to eat. We get tens and tens of billions of dollars worth of royalties just from coal. Now, we spend over $30 billion a year in job programs. That's $30 billion a year in job programs just for Indigenous Australians. Think about that. Where does this money come from? It comes from mining, people. And then think of the flow-on jobs. Okay, flow-on jobs from that. You'll have a miner, but he supports his family. Then they support the local service station, the grocery store, the car dealer, things like this. These things all add up. And manufacturing is dying in Australia massively. Old workmate of mine just got made redundant from Bradkin. They make security screens and things. The factory just closed down. I own one of the last refrigerators ever built in Australia. I picked it up 2 or 3 years ago. Okay? The factory which built that in the city/town of Orange in New South Wales, well, that factory shut down. It all went to Thailand. So without mining and things like that, yes, all the far left greenies can carry on about climate change and all that. But without this mining, Australia would basically collapse as a first world country. So think about these issues. You know, doesn't matter whether you vote Labor or Liberal or National or Greens or the Shooters Party or even the Pirate Party. How ridiculous. Yes, we literally have the Pirate Party in Australia. I know, it makes you wonder. But these things happen. And this is why Australians voted the way they did. And it's against human nature. Finally, the main point I want to say is this. When you want a socialist state where it basically stifles any entrepreneurship and people wanting to get ahead and basically punishes those who work harder by taxing them even more, it goes against human nature. The people who are the best with money are the people who keep their money and just go out and spend it in the right places. Governments and supposed government experts, they're not experts. They're not smarter than you. The individual is smarter than most people in government. I mean, why do you think I'm not a politician? Seriously. They are. You know where your money is best spent, whether it's spent on your children's education, on your home, putting money into your business. That's the best way. Not take the money off people and then have a massive bureaucracy trying to divvy out this money. And by the way, it costs $52 billion a year to run the behemoth of bureaucracy that we call Canberra, our Australian capital city. So think about that. Anyway, all the best to you guys. Stay safe, have a great weekend, and stay awesome.